Well, here I am to start something new on Granny Shares the Bible. I'm going to put this up. It's a list, and it tells on what lesson, number, what book of the Bible starts. In case you want to go back and review one of them, I'm going to write it with a little darker ink, probably a magic marker. And then I'm going to put it up on probably Granny Shares the Bible page, so that if you want to find a book to listen to, one maybe that I've already done, or maybe you've never got to listen to it, then you know where to go in the lessons, okay? And I'll do that pretty soon. But if you'll notice on the bottom of this one, I wrote the book of Luke. That's where we're going to start today. I've thought this over now, because once I do Luke, I will have Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John done. What am I going to do when I get this hunger to get back with Jesus? Reading about him directly. I've already done Acts. I don't know. Maybe I'll just jump back and do a review of one of them. I don't know. I just know that the Bible isn't nearly as interesting to me without Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They're precious, aren't they? So we're going to start Luke today, and thankfully it's the longest book in the New Testament. It's the longest book in the New Testament. So not by chapters, maybe even by chapters, because Revelation has 22, Luke has 24. So I think it might be the longest book by chapters also, because John has 21. So it's not by chapters, because Matthew has 28. But it is the longest book. And I remember once, I'll just tell you about the book of Luke. My mother, she was sick, and I would stay with her some. And I remember her lying on the couch, and I started reading the book of Luke to her, and I just kept reading and reading and reading and reading. I just read it to her. There's such good things in it to listen to and to study about. And it has a lot of details in it that the other books don't have, which maybe we will talk about that when we get to them, about this is peculiar to the book of Luke, certain things that happen in it. And of course we know that the main part of the Christmas story is peculiar to the book of Luke. So I don't want to get ahead, but I'm thankful that I have it to share. Aren't we blessed to have the Gospels? So we'll start with chapter 1 today. Forasmuch as many have taken in hand to set forth in order a declaration of those things which are most surely believed among us, even as they delivered them unto us, which from the beginning were eyewitnesses and ministers of the word, it seemed good to me also, having had perfect understanding of all things from the very first, to write unto thee in order, most excellent Theophilus, that thou mightest know the certainty of those things wherein thou hast been instructed. So, was Luke a disciple? No. Who was Luke? First of all, we know he was a physician, a doctor. We don't know how he became a physician, because I don't know all about that in those times, but he was a physician. We also know that he was a Gentile. So here we are. A Gentile is writing both the book of Luke and the book of Acts. So we know that about him. And then we've run into Theophilus when we studied the book of Acts. Let's go back there and look. Theophilus means a lover of God. The former treatise have I made, O Theophilus, of all that Jesus began both to do and teach. That's what Acts says of Theophilus. And of the former treatise, of course, is this book of Luke, the former document that he wrote. And he wrote that the document which we're going to read today. And he called him Most Excellent Theophilus. Most Excellent Theophilus. And almost sounds like that Theophilus was of some kind of nobility, of some kind of maybe position that he had, like a governor or some kind of position that he had in this world. But he was called Most Excellent, and Theophilus, it means a lover of God. Now, you know, it's capitalized like it's his name, but I was thinking about some people like to give people nicknames. My husband was one. He liked to give people nicknames. He called our son-in-law the one-man brain. He called Brother Hubert, who could work. He called him the one-man gang. Just, he would have nicknames that he gave people. And perhaps Luke, maybe this man was named Theophilus, which means friend of God, but he could have had somebody that he called the friend of God, because that's what his nature was like. I don't know. We don't know. And it's not, you look it up and they don't know who Theophilus really was. His name might have been Theophilus, meaning friend of God. But anyhow, it's who he wrote his 2 books for. He said, seemed good to me also, having had perfect understanding, to write unto thee an order, most excellent Theophilus, that thou mightest know the certainty of those things wherein thou hast been instructed. And you know, it's true for us, isn't it? We're a friend of God. And it's also true that when we read it in Matthew and Mark, when we read it in John, when we get into Luke and we find some more particulars of what it was all about, you know, things that maybe weren't brought out in any of those others, it's a very good thing to read it too. So he's writing this for Theophilus, and then he starts with the book itself. There was in the days of Herod, the king of Judea, a certain priest named Zacharias, of the course of Abiah, and his wife was of the daughters of Aaron, and her name was Elizabeth. Zacharias and Elizabeth. Do you know what the names Zacharias and Elizabeth mean? Let's look that up. We'll see. Zacharias. Here it is. Whom Jehovah remembers. Whom Jehovah remembers. Zacharias. He remembers him. And Elizabeth. Let's see what Elizabeth means. Elizabeth has always been a really pretty name to me. Elizabeth. Okay. Here we go. Elizabeth. Elizabeth does not give us the name, the meaning of the name. Let's see. Elizabeth, it starts with God, because Eli is the name for God. All the other names says to God is salvation. Elisha, God is salvation. Beth is house. So maybe her name means house of God. Because Elizabeth, Beth means house. So I'll just say it be her name, the name for Elizabeth is house of God. Okay, so let's take a Zacharias, whom God remembers. We'll find out that God does remember him. And Elizabeth, a temple of God, a house of God. Okay, let's go on and let's remember those names when we read about what happens here. It says his wife was of the daughters of Aaron. That means she was a priest's daughter. And one of the, like in the lineage of the high priest. And Zacharias was a priest, but she was of the daughters of Aaron, which were very special priests. And they were both righteous before God, walking in all the commandments and ordinances of the Lord blameless. So they had really worked at being what they ought to be as far as God was concerned. To be righteous before God, even during this time, I mean, as you look at how Jesus had to get on to the Pharisees and scribes and the Sadducees, I mean, they were not righteous before God, but Elizabeth and Zacharias were, walking in all the commandments and ordinances of the Lord blameless. So they were keeping the law. And they had no child, because that Elizabeth was barren, and they both were now well stricken in years. Who knows how old they were? I don't know what well stricken in years meant to them. I know this, that back when David had gotten old, so old that he couldn't keep heat in his body, you know how old he was? He was 70. I read that and I go, whoa, I'm 76. I guess it's time for me to get old, y'all. I don't know. I guess it's time. Anyhow, so they might have been in their 70s. And at that time must have been really, that was old. Now, of course, we know that Abraham and Sarah, they had Isaac when Abraham was 100 and Sarah was 90 or so. So that was really old. That was. I say that's old. And maybe Zacharias and Elizabeth were even older than that. I don't know. Older than 70. Maybe they were in their 80s. There is one hint that we could kind of find out about Zacharias and how old he was, is how old they were when they had to quit ministering in the temple or the tabernacle back in I'll never lay my hand on that one real quick. Anyhow, the priests, they could work in the temple and for so much time, and I thought it was from the 20 to 50. I think they had to quit after 50. I'm not sure about that, and it might not have gone on in this up until this day and time. This time, because it was way back when they first started, but I think it was 50 that they had to quit. And I'll have to look that up, or you can look that up. I always give y'all a little assignment. That's your assignment, to find out how old the priests could be before they quit ministering in the temple. But so Zacharias was still ministering in the temple, but they had no child, and Elizabeth was barren, and they both were now stricken in years. So about after 55, or in the 50s or 60s, they probably didn't look for having any children. So verse 8 says, "And it came to pass that while he executed the priest office before God in the order of his course, and according to the custom of the priest office, his lot was to burn incense when he went into the temple of the Lord." Okay, now, they had an altar of incense before the curtain that was, you went into the holiest place where the Ark of the Covenant was, and he didn't go behind that curtain, but right in front of that curtain was the altar of incense, and that's where it was his lot. That means they drew straws or whatever they did to find out who was going to do what when, and his lot was to burn incense when he went into the temple of the Lord. That's what Zacharias was going to do. And the whole multitude of the people were praying without at the time of incense. So they knew Zacharias was in there offering up the incense. And there appeared unto him an angel of the Lord, standing on the right side of the altar of incense. On the right side of the altar of incense. So this is a golden altar, covered in gold, had horns like around the edges, and he was going to put the incense on there and burn the incense, and probably was burning it when all of a sudden this angel of the Lord was standing there with him. And when Zacharias saw him, he was troubled, and fear fell upon him. Oh my. I have often wanted the Lord to show me something fantastic, like an angel, or himself, or somebody growing a new limb, or, you know, something you don't expect, shake the building with an earthquake. I mean, something like you see in the Bible happening. But I haven't seen it, and I guess that's the reason. Because I might be too afraid and just die of a heart attack. Because it says when Zacharias saw him, he was troubled, and fear fell upon him. But the angel said unto him, Fear not, Zacharias, for thy prayer is heard, and thy wife Elizabeth shall bear thee a son, and thou shalt call his name John. And thou shalt have joy and gladness, and many shall rejoice at his birth. Listen, what was his name meaning? That Jehovah will remember. God remembers. God remembered Zacharias. God remembered Elizabeth. Now he was going to put John the Baptist, he was going to allow John the Baptist to be born of them. Isn't that something? His name shall be called John. And he said, And he shall be great in the sight of the Lord, and shall drink neither wine nor strong drink, and he shall be filled with the Holy Ghost, even from his mother's womb. And many of the children of Israel shall he turn to the Lord their God. So this is a wonderful thing that's happening. It's the beginning of the new thing. It's the beginning of the new dispensation from God. If you go back to the beginning of a New Testament, you go back to Malachi, you find out it's like 430 years and nothing happened. Nothing between the Old Testament and the New Testament. Nothing that was worthy of being called Scripture. And now, and this is just like starting at the beginning of Matthew, it's the beginning of the new thing that God's doing. And the first thing that he did was tell Zacharias that he was going to have a son, and his name was going to be called John. Okay, I'm going to stop right there. And we're going to come back to that verse 17 tomorrow. God bless you.